Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Wells Revival on this Wednesday, 5th of October, 2022. And I still don't have an opening theme for Holy Wells Revival. Maybe next week I will get on with that. Anyway, so I better get on with the show since I don't have the opening video. Thank you for joining. This is our weekly time, which is now on Wednesdays, for exploring holy wells and sacred pools and blessed water, exploring the water mysteries of the water well and the pool traditions, and whenever possible, news of holy wells as they're being restored. So hail, how whole and holy good health to you all. Now, let's get the glasses on, get the photographs up, because through this edition, we'll explore some of the traditions of hanging rags and cluties on trees and bushes by the wells. And there you are, I just got rid of myself so you can have a look at the picture behind me. And I'm so pleased that I can be with you this evening, be with you watching, because only a few minutes ago, the chair collapsed and I had to find another rickety chair to sit in. So I hope this little chair will last for the rest of this session. Anyway, as I say, through this edition, we're going to explore the traditions of hanging rags and cluties on trees and bushes by wells, like behind. And we got a guest. We've actually got our first guest ever on Holy Wells Revival, and this is Marianne Ellen Jones, and she's got a poem that's dedicated to some wells in the Canterbury area in England. So Holy Wells Revival and Nature Folklore Sessions, the videos and sanctuary support, they're all brought to you due to the support of kind subscribers. So thank you, subscribers, for your continued support. And if you can help cover the show's expenses, here is the main Patreon link. That's the thing just there, helping out with $1, £1, €1 per month. It goes a long way, and it keeps the show afloat and helps to cover the expenses. And if you Patreon, they go through PayPal. If you're not such a keen fan of the PayPal, you can go through buymeacoffee.com, and there's it rolling there. You can use your card on that one. But I tell you one thing that's going, StreamYard's brought out a lovely new service where after the show, it's very easy to edit videos into little clips. Usually I have to download the videos, mess about, but the way that StreamYard have set it up is actually easier than any video editing software or service that I've got. So after shows, I think I'm going to be more motivated to actually do some little clips and put them up on Vimeo, and they'll be for the Patreon subscribers as where I'll park those. So the Patreon you might feel is a better option, but if you prefer a donation with a card, there you go. Go with that one. That's the way to go with that. Now, so that's the rolling banner. Thanks for your help and support. Let's see, any early birds? It seems to be very quiet out there at the moment, so I don't think there's any early birds at the moment. So I will talk to you later if you're joining on, because this is going to go into archive, and the microphone is disappearing on me. I'm going to do a quick check on the microphone whilst there doesn't seem to be anybody present, to make sure that there is a microphone working. So that'll be wonderful. Let's see. 1, 2. Yes, the microphone's working. So there we go for a quick test while nobody's watching. But if you're watching the archive, you might see that. But then I'll be able to knock it out with the video editing. Anyway, rags and cluties on trees and shrubs by holy wells. Here we go. Let's get on with something. Here's another rag tree there. And originally, the rags and cluties, they were torn from the clothes of pilgrims and well visitors who, when they arrived at the holy well seeking for a cure. Sorry, my microphone is deciding to go for a walk. Let's see if I can stop it going for a walk. It's actually spinning. It's trying to spin 180 degrees away from me. Anyway, as I say, the rags and cluties were torn from the clothes of pilgrim well visitors, and when they arrived at the holy well seeking for a cure. And what a sick person would do is dip their rag into the well water and then wipe the affected part of where they're afflicted with that rag, and then they would hang the rag on a nearby tree or shrub. And let's give you a nearby tree or shrub picture, something like that. There's a rag one over. I'm not sure what well that is, but anyway, I'm going to talk about the species of trees. You know, you might have questions: what trees do these cluties and rags hang from? But I'm going to have a separate Holy Well survival session just talking about trees. And I'm very sorry because the microphone has gone 180 degrees away from me, and I'm not quite sure how to immediately fix that without disturbing the show. So I'll just pray that you actually hear me, even if it's from 180. Let's see if I can tie the cable up somehow to give it a bit of motivation to stay still. There we go. I think that, oh no, it's going the other way now. Oh dear. There we go. I'll do the best I can with what I can, even though there is a roving microphone. Left, right, left, right. Anyway, the belief then with this rag is that it rots. And as it rots, the illness that the prayer has been for it to cure, it's said that it will wither and die away along simultaneously with the rag rotting. Trickle down healing, you might call it. Anyway, I suspect that this tradition ritual has been performed by people at wells for thousands of years, well before these natural water springs were venerated by Christians, before they became St. Patrick's Wells, St. Bridget's Wells, and so forth. Now, today, this rag and clotie tradition is performed with many more variables, certainly a lot more than I knew when I first started going around these wells when I was a lad. That doesn't really show you much variables there. That's just another excuse to show you a rag tree. And sometimes it may seem that the original traditions have become lost. Now, the rag tends to be an Irish reference to a piece of cloth that's soaked in the well water, just as I've said, and placed on the tree. And a clutie, I'm trying to get rid of the photo, and the clutie seems to actually come from a Scottish word that's pronounced, the old way of pronouncing it, it was either cloot or clout. And that's also describing a piece of cloth. Now, through this edition of Holy Welsh Revival, I'm going to explore how people perform rag and clutie traditions around Holy Welsh today and compare it with how it used to be. And I will talk about the challenge also. There's a big challenge these days of rag and clutie pollution on the trees and the shrubs as well. Then as time allows, I'll try to contain this episode into 30 minutes. Lovely to see some people here. Lovely to see you. I'll talk to you in a moment. But if I've got time, I'm going to talk about one or two County Leitrim Holy Wells. As I say, I'm trying to contain this into 30 minutes. I have a feeling I'm going to go on to 40 minutes. So with the rags, first dipped in the Holy Well. Well, let's try and find the picture I'm looking for is not here. But this is a rag tree at Tobernow. Anyway, to give you a bit of a... That's not one of my pictures. That's Kieran McHugh, who's a lovely photographer around Sligo. I couldn't find my Tobernow one. So that's one of Kieran McHugh. You can get cards, calendars, original prints, so forth for him. They're around. If you go around Sligo, gift shops, cafes, they'll be there as well. Anyway, so the rags, they're dipped in the Holy Well, as they say, hung on a tree, and we may call that a fairy tree today. A lot of people do these days. Now, the old tradition of doing this was to leave something behind that was close to the sufferer physically. They actually took a rag. They'd actually tear a piece of rag from their clothing whilst they're at the well, dip it into the well, then hang it. But now people will deliberately bring things to the well, a lot more that they brought from home. It might be of another person as well that they want to say a prayer for that's got a condition. And maybe so these days, because access to some of these wells is pretty difficult. I know even myself now with a bit of a leg disability, I always find it amusing how I struggle to get down the steps and so forth. So the Holy Well, which is supposed to cure people with their legs and so forth, it's almost as if only the fit people can get to the wells. I don't think it was like that in the older days, but that's the way it is anyway. So maybe things are taken to the well to be soaked. Maybe not everybody soaks in the well water anymore. They just hang the stuff on the tree. But maybe what they're bringing as a rag or a clutie might have sentimental value. And so this is really something that's going to be hanged, something that is hanged that's accompanied by faith. And also belief that eventually the illness or the health affliction will be left at the well. And someone was actually talking to me either today or yesterday saying, yeah, I know about the minerals, the chelating that goes on underground, but they were claiming that it's really the faith and belief of the well is more potent than what is actually in the water itself. And it's interesting, when I worked R&D with a herb company, we did do a project of testing people with here we go, as I do on a broadcast, sort of brain dead thing. When you put a sort of a fake medicine out, what's it called? Begins with P or something. Sorry, I think that I'm going to lose the line on that one. Anyway, it turned out that the fake one, whatever the official name is called, people believed in it and they took the medicine and it cured them. It seemed to work than the actual thing we were trying to develop. Anyway, someone can probably put the word down. It's a very typical word. Anyway, the tying of a rag to a tree used to be done with tufts of sheep wool. People would tear their rag off their clothing, and perhaps on the way to the well or around the well, they'd pick up a bit of sheep's wool from the hedges. Not necessarily barbed wire fences, because that's a fairly recent thing, but there may be other types of wooden fences, or even the brambles. You know, when the sheep get mixed up with brambles, there's lots of wool left behind. So they would tie their rags, in their fingers, they would sort of weave and spin a little bit of that sheep's wool, and that would be their tying thread. So quite often there'd be the tying of flowers on a small sheaf of barley. Here's a lovely example. I think this was a Tara that I caught. Beautiful way of doing this. And I wish more people would follow this simple tradition, but they don't. But I think that's a lovely gesture for dedicating a prayer, a contemplation for healing of some form. I think that'd be absolutely gorgeous if people do that. But I feel like the rags and cluties tradition, as I say, I think it's definitely been around for thousands of years, because it feels such a natural thing to do, doesn't it? When you go to a holy well, it's like a sanctuary. You're sort of cut off from everything around. So your focus is on the water, visions of the water. These are things I'm going to be talking about much more detail in further holy well revival sessions. And so the natural thing seems to be to leave something of ourselves as a prayer for ourselves, and the healing as a prayer for someone else. I do also prayers for goodness as well, for appreciation as well as gratitude. I believe all these things can be done. So it's not just a healing well. I think all kinds of emotions and attachment and connection can be done there. But anyway, it seems that the first recorded ritual of the actual holy well tradition that you might be familiar with for healing, and also doing the clockwise rounds, the Hail Marys, the Our Fathers, that type of thing. Though I say there's been gatherings probably and contemplations for thousands of years, I think the way that we see the Christian side of wells, we think that might go back to Christianity when it came in the early medieval 4th, 5th century. But no, it seems these traditions, it's almost as if they were kind of written out, became a doctrine around the 17th century. And guess who was in charge of that? Our wonderful Pope Gregory, who put the calendar together. He was the one that kind of put the well instructions down, from what I gather. Anyway, I find this is not surprising, because the venerations of saints at wells didn't really start happening until the mid-16th century. And I've got another later, not that distant, I think it's in December, where I'll explain this in much more detail in the Holy Wells revival session then. Now, when I was a child, I hardly saw rags on trees when I went to wells. Coins, yeah, sometimes I saw the coins, and I'll talk about that on another session as well. And sometimes apples as well. And the first time I noticed things tied onto trees by wells wasn't actually really until the 1970s. But during the past 20 years, and especially during the past 15 years, there seems to be a huge escalation of hanging all kinds of stuff, like behind what I've got here on the wells. This is what's been going on here in that abundance. I think it's really been more like the last 20 years when you get that going on. And this, of course, it ties in with the popularity of social media. Social media has opened up what holy wells are to a lot of people who weren't familiar with what they were, and they've looked up traditions. But the thing is, there's different interpretations of the traditions and what to hang and what to do at wells and what cluties and rags are and what to do with them. The whole thing has changed. I know tradition does change over the years, but this is very rapid. It's almost as rapid as the upgrade of anything digital, and this has been going on with holy wells. Now, these days, I see things like CD discs, nylon tights, plastic ribbons, balloons. This is not by a well. This is actually the modern, if you go up to Tara on this kind of henge that's way around from Cormac's Court. There's twin, I'm saying holly, of course it isn't. Twin hawthorn trees together. The people put all sorts of things. It's not the original fairy tree there. The original fairy tree is way away from there, and unfortunately it died recently, but it's also coming back up again. But most people don't go into the area where the original fairy tree is. This is an example, and actually it's not got that much on it compared with what's on them sometimes. But you look on that and often you see CD discs hanging, nylon tights dragging down, plastic ribbons, balloons, even aluminium cans I've seen there, and strips, rather than strips of clothing, strips of plastic that's cut from bags you're carrying. And also the rosary beads, they tend to be plastic as well. The prayer beads, plastic that people hang up. And it's as if, to me, when people put up these plastic things, maybe a bit with the metal things, it's as if the person that they're seeking healing for, they're not seeking healing. It's as if they're condemning the person. You know, when's the plastic going to rot into nature? So I kind of interpret that as a condemnation, or at least disabling a life, which is, but the people putting stuff there, they've read, believe that you just hang something there. And I don't think a lot of people have actually gone into the tradition much. They've seen what other people do and they copy it, and the tradition has changed somewhat to fit in with the plastic age it's seen. And I also noticed a huge recent increase in stuffed animals. A lot more, you know, you can imagine that. Oh, I've got a bigger stuffed animal than that. So I haven't got any photos of it, but I've seen them where the stuffed animals on trees are getting bigger and bigger. They're weighing down the branches. And this is the thing that's happening, is the branches are getting well weighed down by these rags and cluties. And also when the branches expand as these trees get older, they're strangling the branches and they snip off. It's a bit chaotic, really. Locks, that's another thing. There's this whole tradition since the social media age of putting locks on bridges. Locks are now appearing on these trees by wells, jewelry as well, kiddies' toys, plastic kiddies' toys, even toy guns. I've even seen toy guns hanging from trees by the wells. Anyway, I've natted quite a bit. Let's see, a few people have arrived, which is lovely, and there's a bunch of comments for me to look at. So let's say hello to what you're saying. Placebo, that's what was the word I had. Chandler, thanks very much. Placebo says Claire too. Thank you. Lovely. Claire's watching, and Claire's enjoying hearing the old ways. Wonderful. And Chandler says, I can hear you okay. Yeah, the microphone seems to behave itself. I wish I'd had a film. It was just as if it had got its own animation, but it's calmed down now. We've got Sharon Newman here from County Clare. Lovely. Thanks for joining, Sharon. Lovely. Terry Connolly from Westport. Terry Connolly's here. Lovely. And Penny Stevenson, watching from Buckhurst Hill near Epping Forest. Thanks for being with us, Penny. That's lovely. Fabulous. So I hope you're finding this interesting. And I'm about halfway through, so I'm not going to actually make the 30 minutes, I don't think. I hope you don't mind. But an increasing challenge during the past 10 years as like what I was showing, is the pollution that's been caused by the excess rag and clutie trees, and also the materials that they're made from. And it seems that pilgrims, to me, they're visiting holy wells now, and they feel they've got to leave something just because they're visiting. Now, if a tour group, lots of tour groups are visiting holy wells now, these pilgrimage tour groups, the small ones, they visit holy wells. And often the tour leader will kind of have a simple instruction. Oh, this is a holy well. This is where we leave a prayer. They'll keep it quite simple. And they actually encourage everyone to leave something. And people in the group are not going to want to feel left out. Oh, I ain't got anybody to think of. I haven't got anything to offer. So everyone in the group puts something on because they don't want to feel left out, obviously. But you know, sometimes they'll put something up even if it's a piece of tissue. And sometimes the group leaders, they actually hand out tissues, and they'll tell the group, look, this is biodegradable. This is sustainable. And I've even seen a tour group. Let's see if I can get a picture up of this. I've actually seen a tour group. There's a couple of groups that do this, and they get around in quite a few places. And what they do is hand out toilet tissue. And so they're hanging these toilet tissues in various wells. Actually, this is by Cloutie Keel, which is not a well. This photo I took at the Cloutie Keel court cairn. That's east of Sligo. But I've seen this at Wells as well. What's the one in Westmeath as well? I can't think of its name. There's a well, famous well that people go to. That's full of this as well when I go to there. I keep thinking of Cong. It isn't Cong. Anyway, but not all of them do this. This is up in Doon. Incredible. I've been visiting there, I think, since the late 60s. The Doon well up in Donegal there, very famous place because there's a place above there where the Donegal chieftains, the Donegal kings, they were brought into kingship that's above there. And I remember going there was actually a well keeper. And I'm doing a series on Sundays with the Nature Folklore, talking about the alehouse women. And I'm sure in the past she was a sort of variation, and she was a keeper on it, and she wouldn't let you have a drink of the water until you'd done your Hail Marys and so forth. And she really kept an eye on what people put on the bush here. I think they're little hazels, if I remember. Those there, they're quite young. They've replaced what was there before, but people have on that one, they've just left simple rosaries. I know there's a few plastics, but any of the sort of awkward stuff they've done at the bottom. So it's quite a nice job. I've got something else to show at this time. Yeah, I showed Tara and I've showed the toilet tissue. Yeah, let's leave it at that and move on. Now, with all the extra additions that are put into these trees by Wells, people call rag trees, clutie trees, wishing trees, well trees, and also, of course, fairy trees is a favorite. It's a huge challenge. Do we clear them? Do we clear those? What's going to happen from time to time? How do we clear them? Now, one thing I haven't talked about, some people are aware that this problem could happen. So when they've actually taken, and this is an old tradition, and I think some people still do this, and this is something that people are not very aware of until they really look around the well area, is they'll take the rag, they'll tear the rag off of them and put it in the well, and they'll pray for healing. What they then do with their rag is they hide it under a stone, and it rots under the stone. So if you actually I don't encourage this, because again, you could be putting a curse on you if the tradition is willing that you don't disturb that, but the clutie, the rag, will rot under the stone. So some people follow that tradition of soaking the well and putting under a stone nearby rather than the trees. So don't be surprised if you kick a stone when you buy a well and suddenly there's some rotted cloth underneath. That's what's happened there. But what about the actual clearing here? What do we do? Clear this stuff, or just let it strangle the tree and the tree dying because it's been overburdened with all this stuff. Now, the biggest challenge people have with this is the main superstition is that anybody who removes any of those rags or cluties from the tree, it's said by the folklore that they will carry the illness and the burdens that have been prayed into the rag or the clutie. Instead of it dispensing and the spirits of the tree dealing with it, you've ended up being the spirit that's going to deal with it because you've decided to carry away the rags and the cluties yourself and do something. A bypass of that is some wells, they bring in the local priest, and the priest has a ritual, a personal protection ritual that the priest does upon himself. Then the cluties and rags, they're taken, they're regarded old, and then they get a burial. That seems to be quite a tradition. But another thing is, if you do attempt to remove these rags and whatever's been put up, it angers local people as well, because they're very aware deep into this tradition. Because another belief is that if you remove the rags and cluties, this is going to upset the fairies and the she-folk who are working the tree healing processes. And in response to the rags being taken away whilst they're in the middle of doing this healing, the local people believe that the fairies, the she, they'll get angry and they'll curse the local people by making the local people and the animals ill as well. And also another thing, some areas believe in that when the fairies get angry because the cluties and rags have been messed with, that increases the changeling activities. And if you're not familiar with that, and I will have a session on it, that's the replacing of healthy babies with sickly babies that the fairies are said to do in the middle of the night. Now, what is also current is accelerated concerns of all the environmental and biodiversity impact that these weird things that people are putting on trees may do. The CD discs, the plastic wrappings, the stuffed plastic toys, all that sort of stuff. That is really a challenge on environmental and biodiversity concerns. So what do we do about that? Environmental activists, of course, they want to remove toxic materials. The last thing they want is for these to be beside the wayside trees. But even that provokes local anger, because it's still thought, even though the plastic and so forth has been put on trees, it still deserves the same tradition, same respect. And they tend to blame that the environmentalists are all townies anyway. They're all from universities and they don't know or respect the ways of the country locals, even though the plastic is there. But what's been forgotten, and especially by the locals who get angry over this, excuse me, is not so many years ago, at these wells, anything that was hung, the materials, it didn't include the stuff that we got today. You wouldn't be seeing plastic hanging on wells. It just wasn't around for people to hang them on the wells. When was plastic really around in abundance? From the 70s? I know it was around a bit in the 60s, but it was all too precious then to think of, I think I would do a prayer for Mary, who's got awful arthritis. I'll just take a bit of plastic bag along. That just didn't happen. That's what happens today. So the materials of years ago that were hung were not the same as what they are now. So anything that was put up in the past was biodegradable, and not much metal either. Sometimes there was coins, and again, I'll have a session on coins. But it was different, and I hope local people will recognize that. And I think the ritual does need to change a bit to keep it, it's it's holy. It's a place of purification. So I hope that, is whole is complete. Holy is whole, complete purification, and I don't think the presence of plastic is really containing that spirit. Now, pattern days. That's when people meet up at wells, and those are dying out. But in some wells, there are set pattern days at the wells, and I'm going to talk about that in other episodes. But it does seem that the origin of rags and clotie spell work, it wasn't on these pattern days that people have assembled. It was on cross-quarter days, especially in bulk, very popular in bulk. And I'll talk about that during future sessions as well. Anyway, we've got a guest, as I said, and just as I come on to the half hour, I've got the guest which is our first one for Holy Wells Holy Wells Revival. It's Mary Ellen Jones. It's a video performance. I haven't clearly got the title. It's about well maidens, I think. And so I'll get that going for you. It's beautiful. Thank you, Mary.
Well maidens
in the audience.
4, 7, 10 of the finest maidens that ever lived. And if you have not dressed a well before, who is to worry? They will teach you. Each one has strong hands. You do not get to be a well woman without strong hands, long hours of tending what needs tending. Did you ever tend a child in pain? Why then you tended the well of what it is to be human. Did you ever talk truth to power, even though you felt icky inside? You tended then a deep well of resistance. Did you escape from hurts and harms and look back and say, I did that, I alone walked away from what was difficult? That day you tended a well as vast as any ocean. Did you say one day to yourself, I must, I can, I will, though you yourself doubted? You doubted, but you did. That is well tending. There are religions and all that, fine and wise and noble, men with long beards and good intentions, tomes and texts and Trotsky. Things that the outer world says, yes, that is wise work by the old thinkers. Don't discount such stuff, it can be wholesome, but it is not well tending. Well tending is why you came, resistant and strange. You fell to earth all at once, no manual, no fairy to say it is safe here despite the chaos. No one was there when you entered. School said, thick are you that thinks fairy. And you thought, yes, I am stupid. There are men and women who made this world with high language, and there is I who like flowers and shapes and water. There is I that sings to myself when no one listens, and there is the good world of outside wisdom. You learned bit by bit to forget the well inside your body, the old well that has an infinite supply of good water.
Lost my mic again. Thank you, Mary. Mary Ellen Jones there with our first guest on Holy Wells Revival. It's fabulous. Thank you. That was great to have. Now, as I've mentioned that, I know the half hour's up already, but I mentioned that I'm going to feature one or two holy wells of a county or country outside of Ireland on these sessions as well. And on each edition of Holy Wells Revival, time allowing, I'll do what I can. Anyway, I'm going to do an extra few minutes. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to present my first one here because I wasn't sure how to present wells on this. So this is a lovely test run from our current home county of Leitrim. And if this goes well, I'm not going to add another one. I'm just going to do one well, I think, for this one. And this is St. Patrick's Well at Edenmore, southeast of Keshcarrigan. Let's put the sign up. That's the one there. Patrick's Well, partly covered over the sign there. It's near Shebeg. And you might have heard of Shebeg Shimor, the O'Carolan tune. And this is very close to Shebeg. And there's been a huge revival at this well since I visited. I first visited it about 18 years ago. And the last time I was there, it was, if you go to archaeology.ie, it describes the well a bit. And the entry there says exactly how I did. I crossed a different field to what I did on this last visit. And it was a shorter field than what I walked through. And then I went down some steps, and then it was a stone dome. A bit like today, but it is today. I'm going to show you the well in a moment. But back then, the well was covered with ivy and other shrubs, and the water wasn't that great. So there's a huge improvement now. Today, this must be one of the best cared for wells, holy wells in Ireland. That's not the well, that's just one of the seats that's there. But it shows you some of the sort of luxuries you've got when you visit that well. There's generous surroundings. It might be a bit over manicured these days. You've got lovely seating, some fresh tree plants that's by the seats there. It's very easy to find. I haven't got the map up, but easy to find on Google Maps. Just look for St. Paddy's Park. The farmer has called it St. Paddy's Park. And it is a sort of a park here. And the farmer has been very generous to give up some of his land to set up a kind of a template of easy access to holy wells that I often talk about. A lot of farmers are not willing to do this. So it kicks off with this. You've got this lovely sign. There you go. The top of Patrick there. Nice gate. Pleasant walk. Look at that. There's an avenue on each side. They're very young oak trees. So there's a fence to keep any animals out there. Be nice if that was a hedge as well. But those oak trees are going to spread. And also the one thing, because I had a rollator, and it's easy to get the rollator along there. So that means it's got wheelchair access. So wheelchairs can glide along and they can get to the well. There's not many wells you can do that with now, which is great. And it looks like this site, as I say, I think the oak trees are a start of it forming a natural barrier to keep the farm animals away, and also to keep us visitors away from the farm animals. And then at the well, there's plenty of space. Actually, there's not much in flowers there, but there is actually lots of space there for the inclusion of more flowers, herbs, and there's various seating around there for contemplation. Lovely additions that's around there. There's a lot less statues than there were a couple of years ago, but some of them are quite quirky. What's the fireman doing there? Which I think's a bit odd, of not the usual Marian statues. And there were actually used to be, I haven't got any photos, but there used to be a dragon there as well. I wish the dragon was still there. I'd love to know what happened to that. But the well itself, the well water, it's not exactly most beautiful design, but it's very clean water. And there we go. That water, though it's got growth, ferns beside it, it's very clean water, bubbles up. But the strange thing here, there's no rag tree. There's this huge, on the avenue, as you get close to the well, there's this beautiful arching over hawthorn, but nobody's hanging rags on it, which is fascinating. Now, you can certainly see the manicuring from that angle, looking back to the gate. This is right close to the well. But a beautiful hawthorn, and the fireman's actually just behind me there. Now, this is signed as a St. Patrick's well, but I could not see if a priest has venerated it. This is inside, and this is some of the things that people have left. Little Marian figures, little figurines, and I couldn't find out if a priest actually has venerated this well. Just a more close up of the sides of what was there as well. Anyway, it seems to be all this might have been following the farmer's own whim and what he believed in. But unfortunately, I couldn't find the farmer to get to talk to him and ask him a few questions, which would have been very handy. But there was a woman that lived the other side of the road, of the well, in the other side of his barn. And she actually came up to me very friendly with a big smile, started to be chatty. And she told me that the whole well revival project was within the farmer's own whim. She pretty much confirmed that it wasn't a local community project. So she was a little put off by that it was just like his kind of thing, his own ego thing, and the community didn't have much say in it. But he does leave the gate open at all times. Anyone can visit that well anytime they want to. But she doesn't know if she herself, the neighbor, doesn't know if a priest venerated it. But she does say on St. Patrick's Day, the priest does come along, sets up a table. A woman, I wish I got the woman's name, but she said it's a very popular project. And this is what the farmer worked on a lot during the lockdown period. And local people visited a lot during the lockdown period. And that's how it became a kind of a park. It wasn't not so much a meeting place, but it was a lovely contemplating place where people feel they could safely get out during lockdown. And several people had visited for the cure. as she called it. She always said the healing is the cure. And especially to get over, there was a lot of people visited, she said, who had the COVID, and they now had the long COVID. So this became a well for the long COVID, the local people who'd had COVID. And she had a dog with her, and the dog started tugging, wanted to go off for walking. So that was the end of that conversation. Shame I didn't get the questions in I wanted. But as I say, this is a very easy to find well. I haven't got a photo of the parking space, but there is 4 cars. You can park 4 cars beside the barn there. But anyway, I'm going to show you. This is a bullone stone. It's a very strange casing for the well, isn't it? But I'll show you again. There's a bullone stone at the right. I'm going to give you a bit of a close-up on it. You might be able to see there's a bit of a curtain stone in there. That's interesting because that's where the well water comes out. This is a genuine underwater spring from deep down, comes up into the well, and then it flows out just where you see there. And I think if you look, there's a shovel there for clearing it. Should there be a problem? There you go, close up there. It's you can see the little cursing stone on top of the bullone there, and there's a shovel that I gather the farmer or anyone else who wants to volunteer can clear out the outlet so the well doesn't clog up, it doesn't accumulate weeds and algae and stuff like that. And here's a lovely close-up as well. There you go. You can see the cursing stone in front of that. And I think the farmer actually brought these in. Where he got them from, they probably came from different places. I don't think they were natural to this well. This is all part of the farmer trying to bring this all together. And also there's this here, another feature. See what that is? That's an Ohm stone. And I also think the farmer brought that in from somewhere as well. Let's get some better pictures of that. There's a little bit closer up of the Ohm. Nice feature to have. But there we go. If you look at that, it looks like, and I'll give a better one again. Look at this one. Well, it looks like, I think it probably is a genuine Ohm stone, but what the farmer has done, he's brought some still saw or something, a modern tool, to try and bring out the relief in the markings to make it look more impressive. Totally illegal, of course, and a lot of people are going to be nodding their heads at that one. But he obviously thought, I haven't translated that out yet, but he obviously thought that was a good idea to have that by the well to be sort of an authentic ancient experience. And there's a final one from that well. If you look from the well, there you go. As I say, this is by Sheebeg, right in the distance there. And the sun was just setting when I was there. There you get Sheebeg, no, Sheemore. And the lighted cross isn't a light there, but you can just see the little peak there on the top, which is an biggest ancient cairn that's there. Very good view there of Sheemore from the well. Some people say that's quite an alignment. So that one, yeah, that's that Patrick's well. A couple of comments from you. Let's see what is. I'm going to close this very shortly, and there we go. Thank you, Marion. I loved your poem from the heart. Penny Stevenson, great. And there we go. Marianne Allen's here. Thank you for featuring the poem. Absolute pleasure to do that. And we got the lovely Maria Kelly-Castiva. Are you still in San Francisco? Thank you so much for this. As always, I enjoyed it immensely. There's still more to come. I've got a little bit more I want to talk about for another well that I've decided. I might have missed this bit, but it is archived. It's not so much to go back over. I was wondering if there's a time of day that's considered most auspicious for putting the cloth on the rag tree early morning. My husband has arthritis. That's a surprise to hear. In his spine, he's quite concerned because of being dancers. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that one. Because you're unbelievable dancers with what you actually do. Times, there might be local traditions for that. My own thing is a common sense approach is I tend to think of it, if a personal contemplation, you want to go when there's not likely to be people there. It used to be travelers would turn up at wells and fill their water. That tended to be very much in the mornings. So you don't get the travelers there filling up as much as they used to. So I used to say, yeah, go towards sunset. But of course, there is this whole thing about the morning dew, and collecting the well water and any water is best collected in the morning. Again, get there before people. So I must admit, just from my own sort of consciousness, probably nothing to it. I would prefer close to sunrise, sunset time. But that's just a personal feeling. I don't really know if that connected to tradition, but if you want quiet contemplation, that's pretty much guaranteed. Also, check on the time when the water is going to be at its highest flow. Now, the one thing that does happen, a lot of rain, especially in Ireland, falls through the night. And it falls through the night, goes through the swallow holes of the mountains, and then it'll travel underground. And that freshest water is perhaps going to start bubbling up that following morning. So check on when it's raining. And I would say when the water's going in like that, go to the well about 2 to 3 hours after a heavy rain, and you might find that's when the water is being pushed through and you're getting the real good stuff. Because obviously having a muddy kind of empty well is not very good for that. That's just a suggestion on that. Now, I just wanted to briefly put in this one for a few minutes. There's this is another one. This is another St. Patrick's well. Patrick Smell. No, it wasn't. Some of them are, but this wasn't. This is Miscorn Glebe. It's near Ballinamore, which is a Leitrim village. I'll show you it in a minute. The reason I'm including this is featured in Dr. Celeste Ray's book, The Origins of Holy Wells of Ireland. Now, Dr. Celeste Ray, forget what, I think she's in Connecticut. But anyway, she just featured that. That's actually Sleevemore on the cover there, the Sleevemore well there, which that's funny. I'm going through this brain dead moment, just like I did on Sunday and last week. It's the Mayo Island beginning with A. Claire and I were on very recently, so it escapes me anyway. But anyway, that's her book, and I don't have time. But in her book, when she visited there, that's what the ragwort tree looked like when she was there. It's a big vintage, very old ash tree, a few hundred years old, right by the well. And she's absolutely delighted. She makes a big feature of that one. But when I visited there a few weeks ago, unfortunately, it's not standing anymore. There it is, it's fallen, which is very sad. And so very different when Dr. Ray was there. And I got another one a bit closer up. There's some of the rags, very ancient rags that are still hanging there, hoping for people to be healed. And that's it. There's a sign down to it there. No, it isn't. Should be. There you go. That's it. It's a lovely little walk. Get a little overgrown because I don't think there's still a pattern day, I was told, but it looks as if it's getting a little bit neglected. That square concrete box is the well, and then you got the grotto and the altar up above it, which has got a few coins and a few offerings. I don't know what that cross is in the distance, but that's behind the well. That's the ash tree lying down as well. And in front of the well, there was a box where you could get candles, and that's been overgrown with brambles and box shrub, so that's hidden. So it's really kind of one of those wells that sadly seems to be disappearing. I'll show you that well on another day in more details. Have you got any more questions? Because I'm going to draw to a close as soon as I can. Holy Wells Revival and Nature Folklore Sessions, all supported by you lovely subscribers. Thank you for your help. Euro, dollar, a pound a month. It goes a long way to keeping the show afloat because there's a whole bunch of you that help out on that. And that's the link there. And I'll throw the banner again if you prefer to pay with a card on Buy Me a Coffee. The rolling banner there, as I say. Anyway, I think I'll tell you what's coming up on Holy Wells Revival. I haven't really got the pictures sorted out yet. But on the 12th of October, I'm going to be talking about witches at Holy Wells. You know what? I want to talk about this. I'm going to change my back background here. Give me a moment to change the background for a moment, because I've been having this rag tree. I'm going to go back to this nice, simple one here. Let's have this one at the back. That's much nicer. There we go. We'll have this for the closing credits. Anyway, 12th of October, next Wednesday. It's witches at the Holy Wells of as well. And I'm going to feature one or two wells of County Galway. Get the feature next week. Then the 19th of October, the Wednesday after that, I'm going to be talking about serpents at the well and holy wells of as well. And I'm going to talk about one or two holy wells in Scotland. Of course, you immediately put serpents and Scotland together. Loch Ness. Anyway, but Loch Ness is not by a well. Loch Ness is in the loch. Might talk about that a little bit. Anyway, Holy Wells of Scotland and serpents. That's on the 19th. Of course, I'm doing this because we're coming up to Savan as well. And guess what? The 26th of October, the Wednesday after that, it's in 3 Wednesdays' time. We're going to be doing ghosts at Holy Wells. And I'll be featuring one or two wells of County Limerick. And also, let's not forget Nature Folklore this Sunday, 9th of October, 4 p.m. Irish time. It's going to be part 3 of Witches, Cauldron and Ales. And that third part is it's titled From Witching to Healing. Comments. Thank you. Looking forward to the Scottish Wells. I bid you are, Benny. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Myra. Thank you. And thank you for all you lovely people who have been watching. I've enjoyed being with you with this Sharing the Holy Wells revival with the Cluties and Rags. Thank you to Mary Ellen Jones for the poem. Anybody else who's got poems and stories related to wells, do get them to me. It'd be fabulous. Thank you. If you're watching after this broadcast, please keep your comments going. I do return to answer them as often as I can. Subscribe, especially YouTube, because I'm still trying to get to the basic 100 subscribers on the Holy Welsh Revival channel. I think there's about 14 to go, and then I can actually put it on the YouTube map, and that will help a lot. And I'll stop nagging about it then, because it will just grow organically from that point onwards. So that's me wishing you to have a safe time, a safe week, or I may see you on Sunday as well, of course, which will be absolutely fabulous. I hope I do, because it's part of the Swan series as well. But enjoy your inspirations and enchantments at the times when you are amongst the presence of water. So until next Wednesday, or the Nature Folklore on Sunday, play well. That's all I have today and this evening. Sorry if you thought I'd be half an hour, but at least I'm less than an hour. So thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.